We finally get the news alongside Ira Schofel, managing editor of Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang, and today we're talking contract extensions and raises. Good things have been happening for Florida State football, especially when you talk about the last 13 games on the schedule, and it looks like the assistants up and down the line are going to be paid accordingly. Ira, no surprises here that Florida State is going to reward their coaches for the successes on the field, right?
Yeah, I think I actually wrote about it probably like in January that we knew that, and it wasn't like a shocking development, but that we knew that they were going to be getting raises and extensions pretty much across the board, and some of them pretty sizable raises and extensions. And when you have success, it's the cost of doing business. You have a good season like Florida State had. Now other schools show interest in your coaching staff, and you've got to pay them more. Plus, you want to reward them and keep them happy. So it's no surprise Florida State did it. Some of the numbers I think surprised some people, some of the individual coaches' numbers. But overall, yeah, it's just if you start winning games, you're going to have to reward your coaches.
We'll take a look at those numbers now from the full report on warchant.com. You can read more coverage about this particular issue and a whole host of others right now at warchant.com. But you can see the first couple of paragraphs include the names of Florida State's two coordinators. John Papuchis is the third coordinator, but we're talking about offense and defense. And Ira, both of them are now into the seven figures. And that is a landmark / watershed moment for Florida State as a football program. Both coordinators being paid over $1 million a year.
Yeah, it is. And really, up until a few years ago, Florida State had never had a $1 million coordinator. I think Kendall Briles was the first one that commanded that salary. And then, when this coaching staff came in, none of the assistants did right off the bat. And Alex Atkins is a guy who originally, I think when he was first came in, is from his career at Charlotte, his stint at Charlotte, I want to say he was in the $550,000, $600,000 range. I don't have it right in front of me. But then when he got promoted to offensive coordinator last year, that went up to $850,000. And after 1 year, he is now moving on up to over $1 million. And I think the fact that he's extended for 3 years pushes him out to early 2026 after the 2025 season. Has to give some comfort to some Florida State fans who've been worried about how can we lock down Alex Atkins. I mean, I think that's probably objective number one for most fans, right?
Yeah, and he said that in his public comments as well, that if you're going to take another gig, it better be the right one, which is, a far cry from maybe some of the previous offensive coordinators at Florida State. You mentioned one of them who's seemingly take another job within, 18 months apart. They're on the short list for other universities, and they take other gigs, whether that's UMass or going to FAU or Houston or you name it. Alex Atkins appears to be somebody who likes the longer-term security, so he gets it. He is retained as of right now through the 2025 season, Adam Fuller through 2024, and then also special teams coordinator and defensive ends coach John Papuchis, as you see at the bottom of the screen there, Ira, also a hefty raise.
Yeah, and I think, Adam Fuller's probably the one that we've seen some reaction from fans who nobody's mad about anything right now. FSU fans generally are happy. So I don't know if anybody can mess with their buzz right now. But I think it raised some eyebrows, some FSU fans who feel like the defense was better last year. And there's been an endless debate since the end of last season, especially the way the Florida game and the LSU game went defensively, about did Adam Fuller do a great job? Obviously, the defense was better. But was it good enough? And there's been a lot of debate about that. I'm more on the side of, yeah, man, consider where this defense was 2 or 3 years ago, and he's done a really, really good job. There are other people who feel like, well, we still can't stop the run, and if we play a good quarterback, we give up a ton of yards. Well, Mike Norvell is speaking with this contract because he is extending him, Adam Fuller, for 2 years at well over $1 million a year. And I don't think that's because necessarily Adam Fuller had other jobs and was demanding raise. I think this is Mike Norvell showing that this is his guy. He likes Adam Fuller as defensive coordinator.
Well, and as you take a look through some of these numbers, and I'll scroll down a little bit farther, but Ira, that's an important point here, is that there's a signal to the coaching community as well. And this is something that I know that Jimmy Sexton loves to display, but then also for Florida State's purposes, this is just another show of strength for the football program, saying that they're willing to invest heavily and they're willing to reward you if you succeed. In short, the assistant coaches pool is something that's brought up often in the coaching industry. Florida State is robust in that particular pool, and they're showing their strength that this could be a destination job and a stable place to work.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, you look at those ones there, as you mentioned before, John Papuchis, you have a special teams coordinator, defensive ends coach now making $750,000. That's a healthy salary for those positions. I think coordinators generally, up until a few years ago, that's what Florida State was paying for an offensive or defensive coordinator, and so that shows their commitment there. I think across the board, some of these names here, some of these numbers here, we see Randy Shannon. One thing I did want to talk about: Randy Shannon, Odell Higgins, and Chris Thompson. I think all are just doing 1-year contracts, and I know some fans are already kind of jumping to the conclusion: does that mean Odell Higgins may not? Maybe he's calling it a career, or maybe Randy Shannon only plans to be here one more year. I just think you've got 3 coaches there that are veteran coaches that are not going to be seeking other they're not going to be racing out to find other jobs every 6 months. Some of the coaches at Florida State, a lot of these younger guys are going to be upwardly mobile, and there's going to be a more concern about retaining them long term. I think those are 3 veteran coaches that Mike Norvell feels very confident with, and they're coaches who probably aren't pushing for big raises or long extensions, and they'll just go year to year, which is what some coaches do. So I wouldn't read too much into some of these guys who are only getting 1-year deals.
Well, and the whispers behind the scenes, I think Odell Higgins asks himself every offseason that is
Right.
this, have I coached my final game? Have I been on the sidelines for the final time? Is it time to hang it up? So yes, Odell Higgins, Randy Shannon, Chris Thompson on 1-year deals. What's interesting though, Ira, and a positive development at the wide receiver position or wide receiver coach position. Ron Dugans now is retained through the 2024 season. I believe he was on just a 1-year deal prior to this. But now it's 2 full seasons, and what a turnaround that's been for Coach Dugans and that position group in the last year, both with the transfer portal guys they brought in, but then also now in the high school recruiting ranks, led by Hakeem Williams in the 2023 class.
Yeah, back to back, those 2 guys in that list there, Tony Tokars and Ron Dugans, are 2 guys that, Ron Dugans is the guy who bet on himself or made validated himself last year. There were concerns about whether or not he was going to be retained a year ago. They had lost some of the recruits that they had brought in at wide receiver, had not had some guys pan out. That position was not doing well at all. He did get a 1-year deal last year, but it was kind of iffy whether that was going to happen. He comes back and now he gets a raise and a 2-year extension. So clearly what he did last year is being rewarded. And then Tokars is Mike Norvell gambled on him a year ago when Kenny Dillingham left. He gave offensive coordinator role to Alex Atkins, and then promoted Tony Tokars from an intern, or from, excuse me, an intern, from an analyst position, put him on the field. There were a lot of people that questioned that move. A lot of people said, well, who's this guy? Why are we not going out and getting a big name quarterbacks coach? Well, last year he his first full-time Power 5 assistant coaching job, made $300,000. Now Mike Norvell is rewarding him and giving him 2 years with a higher salary. So again, those are more validation of if you do a good job, you'll be rewarded.
And at the bottom of that list that we just wiped away, but Patrick Surtain's deal looks like it's $450 on average over 2 years. That number seems to be in line, especially when you talk about the lack of college experience, Ira. But he's somebody that, again, Florida State brought in because of his recruiting chops, but then also what he potentially can do, his own pedigree, his son's pedigree, as a polished defensive back that could go and work at the professional level. Do you think that number was about where you thought it would be for $450 a year?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, that's probably about as high as you would have gone because, again, like you look at Tony Tokars a year ago, he didn't have Power 5 coaching experience. He came in at $300,000. The fact that Surtain's getting 400 to 450 shows you, or 400 to 500 over the 2 years, shows you that, the respect that Mike Norvell has for him and probably what it took to get him. But also, again, it's a great example for Surtain and any other coaches that are out there when they look at how Mike Norvell and Florida State have rewarded coaches when they perform. Again, Ron Dugans a year ago, there was questions about whether he'd be at Florida State in 2023. Not only is he here, but he just got a raise. So I think that's a good sign to the point you made earlier of Florida State's an attractive place to coach because they take care of their assistant coaches.
That's the thing to me, Ira. You just always want to promote stability any way you possibly can. And that's something that has been negatively recruited against Florida State, a tool that was used, that this is not a stable situation. Well, these announcements show that stability is here finally at Florida State for this football program for the first time in quite some time. Are there any other bigger takeaways that I'm not seeing here other than you can check it off the box of things that you wanted to request and write about, and now it's all done?
No, I think we nailed it. I think the biggest thing is just, again, now you have proof of it. It's what we've been hearing for 2 or 3 months. We were told, because a lot of people have wondered, particularly about Alex Atkins, is can we lock him in? Can we keep him? and can we show a commitment to him? Everybody wanted to see that, and I think some of the other assistants as well, but he's the main one, and so I think it just gives some comfort to fans that that's happening. And we're going to get to talk to these guys when we talk to them on Thursday. Maybe we can hit them up for loans. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, man, if they've got rates underneath 4% right now, I think that's good against the market in the country. We all like this if we work in our own personal fields and we have friends or spouses that work. If you do good things, get rewarded. And it seems like Florida State is sending that message loud and clear about its football program. For Irish Rofel, my name is Tom Lang. This is Warchant TV. And thanks for checking us out on the Warchant podcast feed as well. Throw a like underneath this video. Hit subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free.